Welcome back to the channel. We're here today and we're back in the seat talking about Wrexham Football Club, and today we have got plenty to be talking about. We're going to be taking a look at a huge potential big appointment off the field for Wrexham and how it could have a big effect going into this summer's transfer window. We're going to be looking at the new sponsorship that Wrexham have confirmed, and we're also going to be looking at our return to Europe in the first time in over 30 years. We've got plenty to be talking about, so if you are looking for the best Wrexham AFC content, I say it every video, make sure to go down there and click the red subscribe button. We're on the road to 29,000 subscribers. There'll be a couple of videos being pumped out over the next month or so because I think we're expecting to see signings, departures. We've obviously got our pre-season tours coming up across the world, so there's going to be plenty of content coming your way on the channel, so make sure you keep up to date by clicking the subscribe button. Let's also try and aim as well for 300 likes on today's video, and let's get talking first on the big topic that you've clicked on this video to see. The next week or two at Wrexham Football Club could be very significant for us in terms of the future recruitment of the club, not only for this summer transfer window but for years to come. And more specifically, in the upcoming windows, Wrexham look to build a squad that can compete and can succeed even further in the Championship, which will prove to be a very competitive division. In my opinion, it will be 5 times more competitive last year as Wrexham look to go that one step further and secure Premier League promotion. Now, I bet you're thinking, what are you talking about? What's the topic of the video? So, reports have emerged claiming that Wrexham are looking to hijack a deal to bring in Newcastle United's recruitment chief, Steve Nickson. It's believed Nickson has a verbal agreement to join Championship side West Ham United in a senior role, but the deal is yet to be finalised and is in doubt. This is most likely given the fact that Wrexham have come in and shown their interest for Nickson, the 61-year-old, and likely other clubs are going to pursue Nickson and hopefully get them into their clubs, as I'm sure he won't be short of offers. He's playing his cards right, he's leaving his options open, but as things stand, it looks like Wrexham and West Ham are going toe-to-toe to get their recruitment chief from Newcastle United. So I bet you're thinking, who is Steve Nickson and why is this so significant for Wrexham in the future years, and why is it so significant as an appointment? Because we've seen some people being appointed before and they've sort of had that quietish role behind the scenes. You don't really hear much of them, but it's a complete shift for Wrexham if we do bring Steve Nickson into the club. Now, Nickson's been such an influential figure for Newcastle United over the past decade or so after he was appointed recruitment chief and head of recruitment in 2017 under their spell under Rafa Benitez following their promotion back up to the Premier League. Now, he was appointed, like I just said, in 2017 after the club completely restructured their recruitment department. Now, he became responsible for scouting and recruiting players at all levels across the club, whether it be women's, whether it be men's, under 21s. Steve Nickson was at the front of all of those signings, but all of those scouting reports, those scouting missions in different countries, Nickson was there. Nickson was the man, and he's known for his credibility in the scouting game, and he's known for his commitment to bringing players in from all across the world. So I think that's something that Wrexham could hugely benefit off. And if we're looking at his role at the Magpies, it would have consisted of managing their scouting network, identifying transfer targets, producing scouting reports, working with managers, sporting directors and club executives on transfer strategies, and monitoring players worldwide. Now, of course, it's a whole host of different areas that Nickson would have worked on, and I think despite signings at Newcastle over the years being a collective between the hierarchy, the managers, the sporting director, all the people involved in the club would have worked on this transfer, but most specifically Nickson has been credited for his heavy involvement in the signings over the past couple of years of Alexander Isak, Bruno Guimaraes, Anthony Gordon, Joel Linton, etc. All of these signings that Newcastle have pursued that have signed for lower fees and then have just developed into really good players. You look at Isak going to Liverpool for probably 6-7 times the fee that they signed him for. Bruno as well, he's probably worth around 90-100 million pound. Anthony Gordon just gone to Barcelona, and Joel Linton being a pivotal player in the middle of the park for the Magpies. So he's done really well in that sense, and I think that's why he's got so much credibility in the game, because of his eye for a good talent. But you're probably thinking, why, if he's done so well over the past couple of years for Newcastle United, is he suddenly jumping ship to a Championship side? Now, I think in sort of his role, it is going to be about money. It's going to be about the role that's offering him the best money. Yes, you could say it's greedy, but that's what you need. A 61-year-old director of football. He's possibly going to West Ham, Wrexham, 2 ambitious clubs that are going to look to get back up to the Premier League. And I do think if he's got the budget there that he's going to work with at likely West Ham United and more specifically at Wrexham, I think if we continue to pump the money in, he's got a really good eye for players, and I think he could be looking at this situation thinking it's one that appeals to me and it's a job that I think I can really help Wrexham achieve that historic promotion. If we are looking at his time at Newcastle United, I think more specifically in the past 1 or 2 years, his role in that time has sort of become frozen out in terms of signings, his involvement in signings. I think Newcastle fans speak on the signing of Sven Botman as a prime example of that he didn't really have much say in that. And I think if you're looking at Newcastle United signings from the past season or so, they've spent £100+ million. I think it's probably more than £100+ million on players that haven't really succeeded. Nick Voltemada, Anthony Elanga are two that stand out for me. I think if you are looking at the recruitment strategy for Newcastle United, they've noticed a severe difference in terms of when Nickson was involved and when he wasn't involved. Hence why as well, I think the 61-year-old is looking to showcase his abilities and his talent at a new side. And more importantly, I do think it's really key for Nickson to be going into an environment which is new, fresh and ambitious, which I think Wrexham ticks all those boxes. So you're probably thinking, what will this mean for Wrexham Football Club? How will we benefit off it? What does this mean for the football club going forward if the appointment does happen of Steve Nickson? Now, I think in one word, exciting. It's going to be a really exciting appointment if Wrexham can go in and hijack that deal for the 61-year-old. And I think it certainly would be a statement from us to show that the fact that he's going to be a big change behind the scenes to enable Wrexham to have the best chance of success this season, going up to the Premier League, like I said in the start of the video, in what will be a very strong Championship division. You're looking at the 3 teams coming down, they'll all have big budgets to work with. You've got some really big historical sides in this division, the likes of Southampton, who are going to be pushing at the top end of the table. You've got the smaller teams like Derby County, not smaller teams, but the teams that have just narrowly missed out on the Championship playoffs last year, who are just going from strength to strength, and especially in this transfer window, it is going to be a very competitive division. So I think bringing a person like Steve Nickson into the club that can work with the resources that we do have at Wrexham and can maximise the potential that we do have in the transfer market, it could be so vital for us. And I think the way in which Wrexham operate at the minute, you look at the signings, they sort of go from the staff, Phil Parkinson, Steve Parkin, it then goes to Sean Harvey, who works his wonders, calls the agents up, has meetings with the players alongside Phil Parkinson. But I think if Nickson was to come into the club, he would take complete control over that. I do think we'd see less involvement from Phil Parkinson and the likes of Sean Harvey in terms of bringing players into the club, and especially departures as well. I think we'd operate in a system which heavily relies on that director of football, which Steve Nickson has proved he can do at such a big Premier League side. So if he was to come down to Wrexham, I think he'd take sort of the weight off the shoulders of Phil Parkinson and Sean Harvey. If Phil Parkinson was to go out there and say to Steve Nickson, look, I want to sign this player from the Championship, Nickson will say yes, okay, we'll look into him, we'll call his agent up, we'll talk to the player directly, and we'll get the best possible deal for it. And I think as well, bringing a person like Steve Nickson in who has that experience in different markets across the world for Newcastle United, delving into the Japanese market, the Spanish market, the German market, I think that does open up that opportunity for Wrexham to delve into those markets, which we currently haven't really seen at the club in the club's history. Now, after the season that we have just had in the Championship, and I think most importantly in the transfer windows across our first season back in the second tier, I do think change/improvement is definitely needed. I think if you're looking at the past 18 months or so, Connor Cody coming in, £2 million, 20 grand a week. Ryan Hardy coming in, probably on a good wage, paid around 700,000 for him. Jay Rodriguez was one of the top earners at the club. The less said, the better about that. Even looking at the likes of Davies Keeler-Dunn, who signed for $2.5 million, Bailey Kadamachi for $1 million, who didn't really play at all in that final running of the season. I think they're all players that have signed, like I said, in that window and haven't really succeeded at all. And I think there is no room for error in terms of in the Championship finances. Wrexham needs to be so efficient in terms of the money that we have got to spend and the players that we do bring in terms of improving the quality of the squad. Now, I think we want someone that's going to come into the role of Steve Nickson that is going to be able to find gems in the likes of the German market, the Japanese market, the Dutch market, and just get the best value money as possible for the players that Wrexham could go out and sign in the scouting reports that we do draw up. And I think a shift is happening at Wrexham Football Club behind the scenes, and I think this would be an addition that would maximise our potential in transfer windows to come. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. There's plenty to be talking about on this front, and I do think it's a really important bit of news, and it could be a really important addition if Wrexham are to succeed in the Championship this season. So like I said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you think we need someone in that director of football / recruitment role, or do you think we're currently operating good as we are? Moving on to the next topic, and we're going to be talking about European football returning to North Wales. For the first time in 31 years, our name is in the hat for a European competition, and for Wrexham women, it's a tie against Armenian champions FC Punic in the first qualifying round of the Champions League. A big moment for the women's side considering the development they've had post-takeover to the current day. Now, I think all you need to know about the Women's Champions League, because I'm sure a lot of you at home will be wanting to watch their tie now. It's a bit interesting to see how the Champions League format has worked. It's been split into a mini 4-team tournament with Glentoran of Northern Ireland and Riga of Latvia are in the other side of the draw. So if Wrexham are to beat the Armenian champions, we'll play in the final either Glentoran or Riga. So it's going to be a tough test for Wrexham because I've got the stats written down here. Our opponents won 94.7% of their games last season, more specifically 18 out of 19 games, and finished this season off with a plus 99 goal difference. So I think for the women's, and I think let alone qualifying for the Champions League group stage, I think this game alone, if Wrexham are to progress and beat the Armenian champions, it would be such an achievement in itself. Venues and dates are to be confirmed yet, but it's going to be a big moment for Wrexham. If we are playing at home, I think we should really push for it to be at the Racecourse ground because it's Champions League football. There's going to be a lot turning out for it. We've seen what the club can do in, I think, the second tier of Welsh football before we sold out the Racecourse ground, and I have no doubt in my mind at all that they'd sell out again if they were to put a Champions League qualifying game there. So best of luck to the women. Let's hope we can progress to the next round. Talking next on a new sponsor. Now, a new sponsorship deal has been struck as NEX have become the official sleeve sponsor for Wrexham for the 26-27 season. Fans can expect to see activations throughout the season at the Racecourse ground as part of the Cop Stand and during the summer tour. I think more specifically when we do jet out to America. So it's good, it's a new sponsor. It looks alright on the sleeve of the shirt. It's a bit different to HP, sort of blends in a bit more with a white background, but I think it's more about what they can do for the community of Wrexham and it's not really about their place on the shirt. But one thing I would say on sort of the shirt and sponsorship side of things, I don't think it'll be long at all before we see the release of the shirts this season. In my expectations, I would say if we're playing our first game against Wisla Krakow over in Poland, I think on the 11th of July, it's the 21st of June at the time of recording, I would maybe give it 2.5-3 weeks. I don't think the club are going to mess around with leaving it late like we usually do, but I think we should get in there straight away and release the kits for fans to have potentially before the American tour. So it's going to be interesting. I don't really have any clue what we can expect from the away and the third shirts, but again, I think they'll be absolute masterpieces as they have been over the past couple of years. So that is it for today's video. If you did enjoy, make sure to drop a like, make sure to get down there as well and click the red subscribe button if you're looking for the best Wrexham AFC content on YouTube. Until the next one, take care guys, up the Championship Reds.